Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's edition of LinkedIn Lunchbreak, the evolution of cannabis marketing. My name is Guillermo Bravo. I'm the Chief Evangelist here at MediaGel. We're a laser-focused dispensary advertising and marketing agency focused on compliant, scalable digital strategies designed to increase foot traffic and boost e-commerce sales. We also have with us BJ Jordan. Want to give a little intro on yourself?
Hey everyone, Guillermo, thanks for having me here. My name is BJ Jordan. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I'm the co-founder of Knifehit Consulting and Spot Management Group. Previously, I was the National Director of Marketing for Have a Heart CC based out of Seattle. We were a national retail chain that expanded from 2011 all the way till last year when we sold our company to Harvest, publicly traded company, right before COVID. Myself and our head of procurement there at Have a Heart started our own consulting firm. And since then, we really specialize in helping people open up brick and mortar retailers. If it's from helping them do their marketing to their learning management systems to, like I said, procurement, operations, everything. So I've had the pleasure of working with some great companies like Freddy's Fuego, Pleasantries, Wholesome Co. We've opened stores in about 12 to 15 states now. So yeah.
Awesome.
Once again, thanks for having me here.
Quite a track record there. Yeah, we worked together. I loved working with you in the past, brother. And yeah, always work with you in the future.
Yeah, bro.
Mitch, you're up.
What's up, guys? Mitch Pfeifer, co-founder at Respect My Region. We're an online publication in the music and cannabis space. Also do a lot of marketing agency work on the back end through that brand. And then kind of through the years have evolved in and out of being a lifestyle brand. We started as a t-shirt and apparel company, expanded into CBD products, thrown events up and down I guess past the West Coast, but primarily up and down the West Coast. Through the publication, we've covered and featured pretty much everything since cannabis first started to get legalized up here in Washington State. Worked with a ton of different brands on the agency back end. We've helped scale out some brands like Buddy's brand, the vape cartridge brand that's now in all 3 West Coast states. Worked with a variety of other people, Cookies getting launched up in Washington, did some stuff for them out in Colorado, worked with Steezy, I don't know, a long list of brands at this point, that we've worked with from the agency side, and then from the media coverage side, we've covered just a lot of stuff going on in the industry. Background started in music, and so our publication and our agency is definitely at the conjunction of music and cannabis, do a little bit in both sides, and then like to, the sweet spots where they both interject, which they have a lot of overlapping. So marketing is definitely what we do, and content is the vehicle that we do that by.
Love it. Well, you've already had a successful content marketing business with within the music industry. Tell us how that has evolved, to encompass cannabis.
Yeah. So, they go hand in hand. I started out making music from a production standpoint, working in studios, producing music. Cannabis obviously is a huge influence on the creation of music. So, I had a relationship with cannabis kind of from a creative standpoint for a long time. And when we first started the brand, it may or may not have been a little bit of commerce in the back end, in the the legacy market, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of history from that standpoint. And we were building a lifestyle brand and working in music, and didn't really feel comfortable talking about cannabis when it was in the prohibition era, publicly, especially through our platform. And so cannabis is always a huge part of what we did, and a big passion for myself and my team. But once it was legalized, it was kind of like, wow, we can talk about this without fear of being arrested or, the stigma. And as that stigma's changed over the years, it's been way more comfortable, getting into it. I think that's for a lot of people from legacy or, prohibition, whatever you want to call it. A lot of us that were actively involved in that weren't comfortable moving into cannabis for a while. It took, had to get our feet wet slowly. So just it gelled really nicely. And then for music, our the way we approached content was on a regional basis. looking at things geolocally, which matched up perfectly because cannabis was legalized state by state with these intricacies based on, state, city, or county. So unbeknownst to us, the content model we built for our music just matched up perfectly for the way that cannabis was legalized. And we had a lot of passion there. So it just kind of naturally fit in and has been blooming. And it's, I'm sure just like you guys, it's super exciting to be a part of an industry that's, the road's getting paved right in front of the car.
Yeah, and we're the ones paving it, right? So
right.
Joint by joint. And the music industry, it's always changing. How does that compare to working in the cannabis space?
That's a great question. Music has definitely prepared us for being in cannabis. I'm a little bit older, in my early 30s, but when I first got involved with music, it was a lot of like hustling CDs on the streets and a lot different model, pre-streaming, pre-YouTube, and those technologies unlocked a lot of opportunity, but also made a lot of challenges in terms of you have to constantly be learning, not just learning technology and how it works, but how to leverage that and take advantage of that and adapt your business model to how the distribution changes and also the consumption habits of consumers for music changed. And so getting a little taste of that, definitely I guess sanded me down, gave me a nice finish for the cannabis industry, which being on the ground floor, it's ever changing. And these social media sites, Google, the way it all interacts with cannabis and the terms of service is constantly changing. So I felt pretty prepared for that coming from music. And then, especially this last year with COVID, events changing, live, the music industry completely flipped and changed again. For the cannabis industry, in terms of what we all do, like digital marketing, it really changed for the better in a way. So just being aware of how culture and technology merge together and how they change and how to try to stay on top of it and stay hungry and just understand change is a part of the process rather than getting old and bitter.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's a ton of celebrities getting into space, obviously musicians, and the term rapper weed is being popularized, right? So it's becoming popular, yet the product often fails expectations, as do most celebrity brands. And I mean, Mitch, why do you think that is?
Man, rappers are great at building hype, right? And especially and I think the allure of a rapper or celebrity is they, talk about things that are unattainable or bucket list things for the average person. And so in our heads, we build up these concepts that, these luxury cars or fashion or whatever is the stuff we want to attain. It's really good. And when it talks about weed, it's I got the best stuff, the stuff you can't even get, stuff you don't know about, stuff you can't even afford. And so it builds this mentality of like, wow, this must be really quality weed, the best of the best. And oftentimes, like you said, it's not that. It's a rapper partnering with the mid-level farm at best and slapping their name on it. And we have this preconceived notion going into purchasing and checking out those products that it's going to be the best thing that we've ever seen. And so our expectations are already unreal. And then, the product often doesn't deliver. So I think, rappers can drive demand and awareness in a really good way. Like we've seen, obviously, Burner with Cookies and, Snoop and Be Real and a couple of these guys that are really passionate about cannabis and have a platform and have interjected those for a long time. Like they can bring great awareness to strains and products and brands. But when we talk about rapper weed as a CPG on the shelves, it's usually pretty lackluster. And oftentimes we're disappointed. Salute to the guys that get it right, that form the right partnerships and put out solid product. But it's definitely a tough angle. And I know BJ's got a lot of experience from the retail side dealing with that and probably heard a lot of upset consumer testimony.
Yeah, BJ, what do you think?
I think Mitch hit a lot of it on the head there with, usually it just seems like it's a rapper just slapping their name on it. I've seen it done good, successful a couple times. We did a launch with Gabriel and YG back in the day at Have Heart. And I felt like that went really well due to the fact that it wasn't a consistent shelf product. So it was an exclusive one-off product. It was that one batch, you could come and get it and then it was gone. YG was also there at the event to get it. You know, and as we know, most of these people came to see YG. You know, they bought some of the weed to get it signed, things like that. But what I think the biggest problem with the wrapper weed is they're just not really a part of it. You know, cookies with burner and, like you said, Be Real, I think are successful because, like, we know that those wrappers are really a part of the process. They're a part of that pheno hunting. They're a part of the grow process, you know, so that ticket or that price tag that we're paying is worth it, you know, where a lot of the other ones, we know it's just boof that they put a wrapper name on, you know, and we don't smoke the package, you know. So I think it's just, kind of a hit and miss if people succeed with it. So.
And so what was I think Seth Rogen took his name off some brands up in Canada, right?
Yeah. I like the idea. I like the idea really of a celebrity that's like an owner and a part of it and maybe like kind of a hype man, but it's not labeled after them. It's not branded after them, you know, like something like Houseplant. I think who else has done that really well? There's a couple other rappers that have done that well that we all know in the background. They're there, but it's not, you know, their name on the product. So.
Yeah, I've seen the cookies drop with Gary Payton. I heard the story about that they brought Gary in and you know, let him smoke everything that they have kind of in the lab, and he's like, "This is mine. You can put my name on it."
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, interesting. I think we're gonna see less of it. Yeah, you know, I think people have kind of figured out that it's kind of whack.
Yeah, if the product quality is not there, then what's the point, right?
Yeah, if there's no retention, you know, get a customer to buy a product once, and you know, to be honest with you, seems like a lot of times these wrapper weed brands, it's usually like the worst brand, the most unorganized wrapper. You know what I mean? It's just like everything is such an unorganized crapshoot. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully,
hopefully they
get together, and you know, the people who are doing it right are going to capitalize on their brand names, right? So
yeah, for sure.
What can you do?
Yep.
Well, BJ, the future of cannabis is on everyone's mind. Tell us where you feel the cannabis industry is headed, you know, and as a consultant, where do you feel the business opportunities lie?
Oh man, that's a pretty broad question. You know, let's for the sake of this meeting and the evolution of cannabis marketing, you know, when it comes to marketing and where it's headed, I really think that the most important thing for people to pay attention to now is owning your consumer. You know, if you're a brand, direct to consumer, owning your consumer, understanding your consumer, you know, with this ever changing let's say ever-changing, you know, market of what we can use and the tools that we can use for marketing in cannabis, you know, as you guys know, with SMS going in and out and all the changes with COVID, really being able to own your own consumer and really understand who your consumer is and being able to market to those consumer based upon things like their actual products, you know, product purchases, who they are, what their interests are, you know, frequency of shopping, things like that. I think you know, as a retailer, working smarter to understand who your customer really is and crafting messaging and crafting marketing for those groups is where we all need to head. You know, if that's from, you know, SMS marketing to, you know, loyalty to, you know, even direct mailers, out of home, things like that. So, and when it comes to everything else in licensing in the industry, I would say as a consultant to anybody, these new emerging states, these medical states are really, you know, some of them are doing a really good job. Patient counts drastically rising. We've got states that are putting in 5,000 to 10,000 new patients every week. With decent advertising laws, things like that. I think there's a lot of room in these states, rather than where a lot of people's heads are, which is just rush into these saturated markets like California. So, or Florida,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I've always push that, you need to go direct to consumer, especially for brands. If you're even a retailer, if you're going through Weed Maps or Leafly or selling through Ease, they don't give you any information. They only give you their first and last name, and that's it, and what they bought. You don't get their phone number, you don't get their email, you can't reach them anyway. So you're just leasing. You're just leasing those customers. Whenever you stop paying these vendors, then you're cut off.
It's just like a brand sourcing all their product. Just completely always sourcing your product where you don't have your own. You're just at the mercy of somebody else. So I think too, when it comes to like messaging and things like that, when I say really understanding who your consumer is, if you put yourself in these consumer shoes, for instance, let's say Utah, or one of these medical states where you've got people coming into these pharmacies or these dispensaries, whatever they're called in that particular state, that they have no experience in another dispensary, or they really don't understand what that's like. So their closest thing to familiarity is obviously medical, a doctor's office. So if you can imagine a 60-year-old lady coming into going to the doctor, getting a prescription, going into the pharmacy and getting, say they prescribe her a tincture, and based upon the dosage, she's supposed to, she should have that tincture for 3 months. She opts into our loyalty program because, that age range, they like to save money, very, aware of their spending habits. And then 2 days later, she gets a text message for 25% off that same tincture. And that's even doing a better job where you're actually understanding, by product selection, but still to that customer, that's like getting a prescription of OxyContin from a doctor going to the Walgreens, and then 2 days later getting a text message for 25% off Oxy. You're like, do I need it?
Exactly.
So I really think understanding your consumer through samples, through following your audience, through segmentation and cohorts, is really where you have to be. It's the consumers, on the other side, where you've got that more recreational type consumer becoming more educated. So it was a long answer. I don't know if it actually was an answer.
No, that's all good. No, so then, you made a good point. So you have your rec user up in Washington. How do you reach them versus a baby boomer in one of the medical markets? Like, what's one channel you would use to reach each of them?
I think as simple as, for let's say the millennial, we could always say social media, Google AdWords. Sorry, I just lost the word. What do you guys do, Guillermo?
SEO, programmatic advertising.
Programmatic advertising, thank you. Programmatic advertising. Being in that digital world, the millennial lives on his phone. How do you get to him? How do you get that ad to them when they're in a shoppable distance? When they're in that mindset of shopping. To the elderly person, maybe it's localized print advertising. I've done all of it.
Direct mailers.
The direct mailers, 100%. Yeah, we do. We've had great success with direct mailers. Like I said, localized print advertising through those papers that the boomer generation would look at. I also think that with paper and print advertising, we in the cannabis industry have a tendency to all conglomerate all in one paper. We're like, everybody else is in there, let's get in there. I like to spread myself out, ads out, and try to make that agreement with that paper to, you know, possibly be that first cannabis ad in there, you know, rather than just following what everybody else is doing. So
Yeah,
but I definitely think, man, print and direct mailers for sure.
Okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
A combination of digital and then print to direct, just depends on who your audience is, which state you're in, and also the regulations there. So
regulations. I mean, that's kind of one of those things too, where as a consultant, we always suggest to all of our clients to just set up a media LLC. It's always going to help you to go around these advertising regulations in some of these strict areas. You know, I would always suggest doing that.
Yeah, didn't think of that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
As far as getting involved in the community, what's the importance of this, dispensaries being involved with their local community?
Yeah, well, on a personal level, I will say this: if the cannabis industry is not going to do it and give back and do the right thing, who else is going to?
Yeah,
you know. So I think getting involved in our local communities is huge. You know, I think the national organizations such as like Last Prisoners Projects, things like that, are always great. But you know, back to my time at Havahart, we had a community outreach director, Katie Miller, who was just phenomenal. And she's our community outreach and training consultant at Knifehit now. And, you know, down to community cleanups around your area, down to working with your local chamber of commerce, your local, food shelter. You know, I think that breaking the stigma of who we are and what we do and the type of people who frequent our stores and what we care about as cannabis retailers, I think it's essential that we do more and go above and beyond anybody else due to that fact that that stigma is so strong on who we are. But, you know, aside from that, word of mouth advertising and being a part of the community is always the strongest form of advertising. You know, I really push community in two facets. You know, really, you've got more of the, let's say, partnership type of advertising where we're working with local, 21 plus brick and mortar businesses to have them, push their customers to us and vice versa, letting our customers know about that awesome brew pub that opened around the corner. Creating that synergy with your local businesses I think it's the most important thing you can do, Guillermo.
Yeah, it's priceless, right? It's just priceless and it's authentic, right? It just shows that you care.
It is.
And that you're not just here to sell weed and make money off people.
And I think that people need to take a little bit more initiative when it comes to community outreach. Like I said, I think the national staples of these, Last Prisoners Project, things like that are great. Making a donation is great, obviously, but let's do more. Can we do more? Let's affect our local and that community around us as well.
Let's do it. Any way that we can, enable these retailers and brands to, push these initiatives forward. Like, that's what we're here for, right? Let's amplify that.
I suggest that each retail store, so you got one store has, that, brand ambassador for them that can do their events, that can be that liaison to the community, as well as be your, social media producer out of the store, whatever else it is. So I would suggest always having that person and always having budget for community.
Sounds good. And then speaking of budget, like what's like a recommendation you have for a marketing budget, and what have you seen as far as return on ad spends on some of these type of campaign channels? For budgets, bro, I would say a good estimated budget in let's say in a metro area with decent competition. I would say anywhere 10 to 15,000 per store per month. You know what I mean? I think with
with the pricing that a lot of these third-party agencies are requiring, or having, like the weed maps, billboards tend to be, pricier, it seems, for the cannabis industry, everything. So I would say to start, definitely 10 to 15,000, and then, kind of, let's say, over the course of, maybe the first year and a half to 2.5 years, maybe bringing that down to a set like 7,500, something like that, I think is a good process. But it really depends on, the volume of the store and what you want to do, how big you want to go. But I think to hit all of the channels, from SEO, AdWords, out of home, third party, content development, all of that, I think that's a good range. And in ROI, I mean, everything should show ROI. If you can't figure out how to show ROI on something, I wouldn't suggest doing it. I hear a lot from people like, oh, we want to do we're doing print campaigns, but as it's just really hard to track.
Yeah. Then don't
I
do
would
it.
suggest not doing it then, if you can't figure out how to track it. We've seen return on investments, like say for instance on direct mailers in California, on a $4,500 spend, upwards of $75,000 to $100,000 in return.
That's huge. And you just track those through a QR code?
Yeah, through QR codes. It depends on state. Obviously in California, we're able to do digital coupons. So we would do digital coupons on those, and they would bring those in to redeem. Other states, other methodology or CTA on them. But yeah, they work really, really well. So
I agree, man. Yeah, it's just finding that right balance of digital and out of home, and just each market's different. Rec and adult use is different. It all depends on the addressable market, the competition too. We've been seeing some really, really great results in Michigan. That's been one of the top for us.
Michigan's such a killer market. The average ticket, the amount of people, Michigan's a killer market. I was going to tell you something else, I can't remember. Anyways, continue.
No, it's all good.
Stoner blurb.
Mitch, you got any questions for me that you want to shoot my way, or you have interest in?
Yeah, of course. And so you kind of, you just talk about some different states and stuff. And this last year, we've seen a lot of new states come online, whether that's medical or recreational. And so with, all these states coming on, the different regulations state to state. And then, obviously we kind of touched on earlier, the tech companies, Google, from Google to Facebook, Instagram, changing their terms of service, that are pretty vague to more vague at times. What do you envision, or as someone that operates, in that heavily in that digital space, what are some of the biggest challenges you feel like are in digital marketing, kind of in these mix of ever changing and varying regulations from platform to platform and state to state?
Yeah, no, it's kind of related to what BJ said, is like own your customers. It's the same thing as you got to own your channels. So there's certain things you can do that don't involve third parties. So building your website, building your own SEO, that's all stuff that you can do in combination with content development like you do. And that's evergreen. You're never going to lose that. No one can take that away from you. It doesn't matter about their policies. So that's the first thing, right? It's just focus on assets that you own. Google Ads, it's, the funny thing is, like, a lot of dispensaries don't think they can do Google Ads.
I know,
but they can. It just takes some creativity to get those approved, but you can do it. You just have to be within the guidelines, right? So I see Google moving towards allowing it openly probably in the next few years. They make so much money, like whether I mean, they know it. They make millions of dollars off cannabis advertising right now. Like, it's every market that we're in, whether we're managing the Google Ads campaigns or other agencies are managing Google Ads campaigns, like people are active in those. So social, I mean, I don't see Facebook and Instagram changing that anytime soon. They're still just closing accounts down on the organic side. Even if you're not running paid ads, like they're still shutting you down. And until they change their policy, I don't think there's going to be any movement there. There are some like creative ways to get those approved too, but they're not as reliable, I would say.
What are your thoughts on social currently, Guillermo? Like, I tell most of my clients to look at social media as like a repurposing of content.
Yeah.
You know, as much as you can, obviously not for everything, or you would not post very often, but you know, it's hard to try to see ROI for social media when, you know, if you invest heavily into the content that goes on social media, it can just be gone at any time.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It's, you know, like a Mitch aside, and you develop content on the blog, that's always going to live there. There's no one can take that away from you. You can repurpose it, put it on social, but ultimately you don't own that platform, so it can just go away. So it's like, how much money do you want to invest in social if you can just lose it just because someone on the community guidelines team just said that you know, they need to be removed or you need to be revoked. So that's the hardest part.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I would just tread lightly on that. Social media is where a lot of customers are, but those same customers are on Google. They're on all these different media platforms. They're on Zillow, like shopping for houses. They're on Zynga, like, you know, playing games. People are still, you know, doing music streaming, doing live chats. There's all these different apps that you can use.
Pornhub.com.
There you go. Traffic Junkie. Like Weed Maps is aggressively on Pornhub. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, you can access all these publications through programmatic advertising as long as you're in that network, whether you want to do like blue chip sites like CNN or Fox or Forbes, or if you want to do endemic sites, you want to do like a cannabis.net or some of these cannabis focused publications, then you can go that route. And there's a lot of options out there, and you can segment based on destination, like where do you want to advertise. But it's just pay attention to the consumer, like where do they live? Like everyone uses Google. Like how many people know Google versus Weed Maps or Leafly? Like it's not even close.
Right.
And Weed Maps and Leafly, they do have some presence in California, Washington, some other states, but you know, as far as on a global, or at least on the, you know, Canada, US, and Mexico, like they don't have any market penetration. So
right.
Invest in your own assets and your own content, and your own SEO, own it, dominate it, and really build your reputation through like reviews and all these different other things on Google. So
yeah. Well, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Another one. What are some things that you would consider that make a digital marketing campaign successful, and like what contributes to a campaign actually not landing?
So successful, I would say an incentive usually works well. So, you know, 10, 20% off does okay, but if you do 30% off or 40% off for that first time buyer, like you're going to knock it out of the park.
Right.
As long as you have a good product catalog and, you know, decent customer service in store, like you should be able to bring people on the door. As far as not working,
too low of an incentive.
That's or just not a good offering. You know, inconsistent messaging too. Like if people are clicking on your ad, going to a website, and the messaging is different on the landing page on the website, and if the checkout process is a pain and you have to register, and if you can't just check out as a guest, that's another obstacle. So it's just making sure like all your messaging, whether it's in store or digital or at a home, it all needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
Like it has to be the same. You can't have customers coming up coming up to bud tender to say, hey, I got this coupon code, and then the bud tender has no idea what they're talking about. It just makes you look bad. So just having that consistency across the board and making sure the general managers, then top down, they know everything going on.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head with incentive, bro. Like, I've had clients and seen, campaigns where we, have done, let's say, for instance, like just as simple as a loyalty opt-in or SMS, program opt-in, to 15% off over the course of a year, maybe with good buy-in at store level, good marketing, maybe 7,500 subscribers, and I've seen 30% off run for a year and have 50,000 subscribers, So it's really hard to truly understand, I think, for a lot of these retail operators, for them to understand that this is the cost of customer acquisition.
Exactly.
Like this is the cost of customer acquisition. And I think that and tell me if you're a little bit more in tune with the big picture of the digital world. But I think that as people and as consumers, we're probably going to get to a place in the world where we actually have a value on our data. We know what our actual information is worth, to where when we do give it out to people or sell it to people, we know when we're being, per se, lowballed.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you made a good point. It's a cost per acquisition. If you're a retailer that knows what they're doing, you should know what the lifetime value of that customer is going to be, whether it's like $1,000 to up to 2,000, or if for your top people, maybe $5,000 plus. So if you know that this customer is going to come in once a month for the next 3 years, that's going to be worth at least $1,500. So how much are you willing to pay for that? Are you going to spend $100 to get that customer?
Right.
It's the same thing like when you think of Groupon, like that's all that was, is like you just got to pay to get that customer in the door. And then as the retailer, as the business, it's your job to own the customer. So you're just leasing them from a Groupon or a Weedmaps or Leafly, but then get them in the store, get them to join your loyalty program, get their information, and then keep them in your in your program, and that's it. Like that's all you can do, right? So
I got another question for both of you guys. Do you guys think that there's a place soon, maybe in the future, where subscription models play a role into cannabis? Where people are, let's say, paying, I don't know, a monthly fee to have their same products, dropped off or delivered to their front door every month. Have you seen it happen at all? And two, do you think there's a place for it?
Mitch, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, so we worked a little bit on a campaign with Airgraft, and I know that's kind of their model in California is subscription based. The value proposition for them is that you can get quality oil at a discount price. You just commit to buy. So I think they're able to build their supply chain up a little bit more. So I'm not sure how they deliver on it, but in theory, I get how it works and can understand their value proposition. I definitely think there's a place for it, potentially more so when if we get to that point, like the craft beer, where you can go direct to a farm or a direct to consumer, where you have I really like this brand. It's the only flower, dabs, whatever I'll consume. And I know I'm going to give them, $200 a month or whatever it is. And they're offering you a little bit of a discount. I could see that fit in there. But I also envision, cannabis is much like I akin to, and I know we don't like comparing it, but like tobacco or beer, and most people just run into 7-Eleven, like even if they're going to 7-Eleven, 7 days a week, I envision like the similar consumption habits are a little bit more rooted in kind of like as desired or as needed, rather than thinking ahead, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars and I'm going to consume this many eighths this month, because I think most people I know, I'm real concerned. I can buy in bulk and pace myself. I know my habits, but I know a lot of people, buy an ounce and burn it in 2 days, whereas opposed if they had an eighth, that's all they would have smoked in 2 days. So I could see it, but I don't think it'd be a significant impact on the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good business model. It just, you can forecast a lot. The lifetime value of that customer, like you can figure that out. So they're probably going to be worth a lot more money. I would say that maybe like Cookies or Jungle Boys or some of these companies can do an opt-in where you get, access to certain product drops through that subscription box. That's
exclusive.
That's a route that I can do. Yeah. Just so they can get your data, right? That's pretty much it. And then there was a company that did it in the past. I don't know what happened to them. About 3-4 years ago, there was a company doing that. I think it's just the compliance too. It's like, I don't know the compliance on, like, most of these subscription boxes are usually mail delivered. So maybe in Canada you can do that.
Right.
But until
a lot of how it would have to be delivery, definitely would have to be some of these states where they have delivery for sure. It's something that's been brought up to me multiple times from, multiple people. And I just have never really seen anybody succeed in it, Well,
it's the payment processing too. Like, you can't, a lot of these companies, you can't pay ahead and then have it mailed. You can do that in Canada, but you can't do that in California. There are some companies doing like the crypto versions and different wallets, but for delivery, like Ease is doing that. But I think it's going to come, but it's going to take some evolution on the compliance and technology side of the space, because it's until they come around there. Like, I would say Canada is probably the best candidate for that.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, we've been on here for almost an hour. Anything you guys want to add? Maybe share some of your social handles and where people can find out about you and your business.
Mitch, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, man, I'm on Instagram at oldheadmitch. The company's at respectmyregion.us, because Instagram death the at respect my region handle, like many others in this space. And respectmyregion.com is the website. We're updating content every single day, man. It's never ending.
Awesome.
For me, you can find me on LinkedIn, BJ Jordan, on Instagram, ponyboy_B. When it comes to website, things like that, we've been moving so fast over this last year that we haven't had the need or the time currently. So it's something that we're currently working on. We'll have up in probably the next 30 days. But until then, LinkedIn is a great place to reach out to me, or just BJ at knifehitconsulting.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, BJ. Thank you, Mitch, for joining me today. A lot of insights. I love everything that you shared on the content, and then just the experiences you had, BJ, on working with all these retailers. I think it's gonna provide a lot of value to our viewers. So thank you again.
Yeah, man. Anything we can do to make life a little bit easier for somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it. It was super fun chatting with you guys. Two of the smartest dudes in the industry. So it's a pleasure to be on a panel with you gents.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah.